This week we read Parshas Zachor as we approach Purim, the day that the Chazal instituted to remember what Amalek did to us and our responsibility to wipe them out in the future. And it's a reminder each and every year. Why is it only once a year? So Chazal understood that the memory works in such a way that after a year we tend to forget things and that we don't remember them anymore, and therefore we need to do something to remind ourselves of whatever it is that we need to remember. In this case, Zachor, so comes each and every year. So much so that in a case such as this year, when it's 13 months, the Chassam Sofer asks, how can it be that we go more than a year? It's nishtakach, we forget it already. We need to remind ourselves. And therefore the Chassam Sofer suggests that in Parshas Kiseitze of this past summer, one should be mechaven, one should have in mind when hearing Parshas Zachor, the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek for the purpose of Mechias Amalek, in order to make sure that it's not going to be more than 12 months before the Kriya is done again. And that's a yesod in life. It's a yesod in life that there are times and there are things that we need to remember. An interesting conversation, I mentioned it at one of the minyanim a few weeks ago, with someone in shul a few weeks ago. And he walked over to me and he was disturbed by the amount of talking during davening and weekday cell phone use. And he wanted to know why I was scared to continuously stop davening and to call out the behavior. Some people have a little bit more of a filter when speaking to the rabbi than others, but that was the question. And I tried to explain to him my position. I'm not scared to stop davening or to call it out. I just don't believe that it helps. I don't believe that it helps. Are there times that it's so embarrassing to the tefillah? Zechil Hashem, it needs to be stopped? Absolutely. But fundamentally, it's not changing behavior. I told them we need to teach. We need to inspire people as to what the opportunity of tefillah is, what it means to stand in a makom tefillah, to deepen one's personal, spiritual connection. I get to talk to Hashem. How fortunate we are, Ashreinu. And they'll be disgusted by the thought of talking or taking out a cell phone during davening. How can you push God aside to converse with your neighbor? How do we do that? I don't have all the answers. I'm open to suggestions. But I do think that it's a process that takes time and effort. But part of the issue is that we get too used to it. We're exposed to the shul, we're exposed to Kedusha, we're exposed to things again and again, and it doesn't feel special anymore. And that brings us to Zachor. Because Zachor isn't only about remembering an event like Mechias Amalek, like what Malek did to us. It's an imperative that we live with and we invoke at different important times in our lives. And I think it's important that since 2 years ago, Parshas Zachor was the last time we were in shul for Shabbos, for quite a while. And after 2 years, we can begin to forget things, because in those first few weeks of this terrible, terrible Magefa, it was so traumatizing. And there were all types of kabbalos that we may have accepted upon ourselves. There was a new appreciation for shul, for davening, for tefillah b'tzibur. We could not imagine returning to shul and having things go back to the way that they were beforehand. We need to remember that and to think, where are we now? Have we lost some of that perspective? So on Parshas Zachor, it's an opportunity to remember those significant moments in our lives. Absolutely, there's a chiyuv to remember what Amalek did. That's a mitzvah de'oraisa. But we should use that as a reminder to ourselves of remembering those things that can drive us closer and bring us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Remember something, if Chassam Sofer was concerned about an extra month, certainly an extra year, when we're 2 years removed, we have to somehow bring ourselves back to not to the experience, it was terrible, but to the hislavus, to that which was pushing us at that time. Use it to inspire ourselves, so that as Purim comes, La Yehuda Ma'isa Ora V'Simcha V'Sasan Mikor, we're going to have excitement, and that excitement will be one that will be infused. We're going to take the Gashmius as we do on Purim, infuse it with Ruchnius, infuse it with spiritual energy, so that it carries us forward, and that we can appreciate the special relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the thought of pushing that aside and not taking advantage of the moments that we have in the shul and using that to convert somebody else will repulse us. And we'll have the opportunity to get closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we'll yearn for each and every chance that we have to be in shul, to daven, to grow, and to inspire one another.